most dangerous thing about a dangerous city is your proximity to it. I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, which is about an hour from Milwaukee. And things haven't gotten too bad here yet. This was generally considered a very safe city. It's starting to get worse. Now the city, you got these two lakes here. And the city is kind of divided between north and south by these lakes. And it's the north part where the two worst neighborhoods are. Although there's a lot of areas like just outside of the downtown area and down that way that would be considered regular city bad, but are getting worse. But the northern part, which we're going to right now, lakes. The northern part that we're going to right now is where two of the worst neighborhoods are as far as violent crime and where the majority of the murders take place. In 2018, Madison had 5 homicides. In 2019, they had 4 homicides. Then in both 20 and 2021, they had 10 homicides. So they had doubled the amount of homicides they had from 2019 to 2020. And they sustained that for 2021. And in 2022, I couldn't find an exact number, but they had 8 by mid-November, mid to late November. I got to do a little more research on that, and I'll put that number on the screen of what the actual total ended up being. But I found 8 for sure that they had. So they've definitely doubled where they were just pre-Floyd. Now, none of the neighborhoods that we're going to go through, we're only going to go through a few of them. But none of the ones we're going to go through are like really bad, like Milwaukee has and stuff like that. But their violent crime rates are like 200 to 300 times more than or 300% more than the U.S. average. So they're borderline right now and could start going either way. So we're coming up here. This is the Sherman Middle School. This is in the Sherman neighborhood. And this is an extremely diverse school. And again, I'll put all the stats on the screen, but this school gets a 2 out of 10 rating. And about 26% of the kids can do English at grade level. 21% are chronically absent, meaning they'll miss 15 or more days of school a year. And now we're entering the Brentwood Village neighborhood. This neighborhood is, as far as violent crime goes, the second highest percent at 207% higher than the national average. This is the second worst neighborhood in Madison. The houses don't look too bad right here. But it just goes to show you can't always tell by just looking at a neighborhood. Especially when you're on the main road. But there's homicides. I'll pull up some of the homicide addresses, but there were a couple homicides up in this area last year. But the houses all look really nice. I mean, like, well kept up. So right here is Mendota Elementary School. And this school also gets a 2 out of 10. Now I'll put the stats of this school as well as some of the other schools in Madison. When you're on the south side of the lake, that seems to have the better schools. The north side of the lake, they didn't seem as good. There weren't as many schools up here either. And then this is the Lerdahl Park neighborhood now, which this is like regular city levels as far as violent crime goes. So when I'm talking regular city levels as far as the violent crime goes, I'm talking about areas that are about 100 to maybe 150% higher than the national average. That I consider to be just regular city, normal, what you'd expect if you live in city limits. When you start getting up to 200 to 300% higher, it starts getting a little iffier, and it's when you get up in the 4 or 5 that things start getting bad. And like in cities like Milwaukee, they have a half a dozen neighborhoods that are over 1,000. They might even have more than that are over 1,000 times worse than the national average. And this is the North Lake Mendota neighborhood. I'm going to see if I can turn down one of these roads if there's not too much snow on it. This is the North Lake Mendota neighborhood. Let's just go down this road. This is the worst neighborhood. This is the worst neighborhood in Madison. And look at how nice these houses look. This neighborhood has a violent crime rate that's 295% higher than the national average. And these houses look, I would live here. I mean, that's how nice this looks. Look at these backyards. I mean, there's not junk piled everywhere or anything. It's the Meadow Ridge Park. 295% worse than the national average. This neighborhood right here. And you wouldn't know it by looking at it. And I would actually wonder how many of the people that live here actually know how bad it is. Because it does not look bad at all. It does not look bad at all. This is just a regular suburban looking neighborhood. It just happens to be in the city limits. So I wanted to drive through this, I wanted to drive through Madison because it's a city that's still good. And if they catch this stuff now, instead of letting it get worse and worse, it can stay pretty good. I mean, the worst 2 neighborhoods we drove through were under 300% worse as far as violent crime goes. and they look like just normal suburb type city, housing and stuff like that. Nobody would look at this and even think there was anything bad about it. But they doubled their number of murders from 2019 to 2020, and they've kind of held on to that level, so it hasn't gotten really any worse. But I wanted to drive through it now just because it is an hour away from Milwaukee, which is a fairly safe distance, but Milwaukee's gotten so bad that eventually that's going to start spreading out to other bigger cities. And this is the second largest big city in the state of Wisconsin. So this would be the next, I guess, city to start going bad. Maybe Green Bay. I don't know how far Green Bay is from Milwaukee. And I wanted to see it before it goes bad, and maybe in a few years I got to come back here and just see what it's like. You know, see what it's like after a couple years if things don't get better. Can you get across here? I'm not understanding how this road works. I better go this way. But that's Madison, Wisconsin. Still a good city. Just getting worse, as all American cities are.